Okay, okay. I know it's a weird topic to talk about because, we think it shouldn't be there, the God and crypto together, but I will try to make a point that it's much more under the skin everywhere in crypto than we would like to think. I mean, we have inclination. So to begin with, it's like a famous, it's an extract of a very famous, influential essay by somebody I will talk about on Bitcoin, on Nakamoto, and all of that. So if you read it, basically says, imagine the ideal protocol. It would have the most trustworthy third party imaginable, a deity who is on everybody's side. Right? That's the ultimate trusted third party. All the parties would send their inputs to God, and that's the name this person gave. God would reliably determine the results and return the outputs. God being the ultimate in confessional discretion, no party would learn anything more about the other party's inputs than they could learn from their own inputs and the output. Alas, in our temporal world, like coming back to reality, we deal with humans. I mean, these people who are not gods. And we are forced to treat people in a nearly theological manner because our infrastructure lacks the security needed to protect ourselves. So what is it saying? It's saying that, and you will see why it's relevant. It's saying that because people are not so perfect like gods, trusted third parties will always be security holes, And it's a theological argument, and this was made by this gentleman in 1997, and it's called the God Protocols. And this was a very influential paper. So he wrote BitGold, and then he wrote this, justifying for why BitGold had the problems in the. Interestingly, the security problems he laid out in BitGold was trusted third parties, and why trusted third parties are terrible? Because humans, humans cannot be trusted because we are not gods. It says a lot about his image of God, right? So no one is trustworthy because no one is a deity. That's in crypto we had the trust no one thing, but we don't think that underlying that there is not always maybe, but most of the time this kind of a theme, theological theme of like we are not gods, humans are not perfect, so let's not trust anybody. Let math do all the work or whatever, right? And so you see something again happen. Another paper. It says completely non-reversible transactions are not really possible, since financial institutions cannot avoid mediating disputes. With the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads, which is weird because if you think about trust in everyday life, right? Like, I don't trust my wife because she can reverse what she decided today. I mean, that would be terrible if, like, in real life we use, like, it's weird, like, trust when we use in regular language, we never think in terms of reversibility or not. It's basically propaganda and it's ideology. It's somebody trying to reframe trust in this kind of a way so they can make this argument, in all so many ways. Hiding the God part and making it about, reversibility, people. It's terrible, right? It is terrible, but it's not a question of trust, really. It is a problem for many other reasons. The connection between reversibility of trust, I don't see obvious, unlike, now it's a dogma in crypto. Nobody thinks, most people, we think, of course, but, and then he said something incredible. This person or people or team, merchants must be wary of their customers, hassling them for more information than they would otherwise need. Like, you have a problem with the transaction you made, you bought something that didn't work out, and you try to make a complaint, it's considered to be hassling. That's a very pro-merchant stance. That's not at all a pro-customer stance. It's like, fuck the customers, we don't like the, sorry, is it okay if I use language? Yeah. Yeah, it's like, fuck the customers, like, yeah, exactly. You're talking about God, and come on. Fuck the customers, it's like, what is it, like, this is a very pro-merchant, this is ideology 101. A certain percentage of fraud is acceptable or as unavoidable. Really? Because why? Because we are not gods. We have to accept it. Certain fraud will happen. Humans, man, if only gods were the trusted third parties. And this is the Bitcoin white paper. This is, we think it's an objective. Some people think, Bitcoiners or whoever, this is not an objective document of science. It's propaganda. It is ideology. Does it have science? Of course it has science. Is it ideology? Completely. So we have many buzzwords in crypto like that. We think it's like objective and we just, like all these words, if I tell you, most of us will think what? We will think of it in a kind of a, scientific way. We would either think an economic way. Like if I ask you trust, most of us will think in terms of cause, benefit, the cost that intermediation has compared to the extractive value. It's a very economic and STEM-driven kind of thinking. Disintermediation, contract, everything becomes that. But there is like deeper underbelly to crypto, which I was just saying. With all of this, and I will try to make a point in my presentation. I'm super late, so I will be halfway and I will stop. So in an undeniably multidisciplinary environment, which is crypto, because I just showed you there's like other things than economics and STEM, it's an actual crime trying to forge this more disciplinarity. Why is it a crime? Because trying to say, like the Bitcoin white paper does, that, oh, it's all, and this is the kind of dogma, it's all math, you don't have to trust anybody, people, it's economics, we love greed, it's nothing. What you're doing is you're hiding the actual fact that there's also, that those things are there, but there's also like ideological apparatus happening at all times in crypto. It's a crime. And so in this talk, we will give ourselves a disciplinary alternative, hoping to tip the scale. And I will choose a discipline that even multidisciplinary people would never choose, right? Which is theology. Because, you know, we think we're retired God. Like, I mean, come on, we are like not in 1700. I mean, whoever gives a fuck about God? So, but I will remind you people that far from the truth. Actually trying to suppress religion has become dangerously everywhere. Now we don't even see it, right? So theology is the secret, which in Latin means crypto, underbelly of crypto. So it is crypto's crypto. Like what's hidden in this, like we have to decrypt this underbelly of crypto. It's almost like hidden, you know, it's kind of ideological keys, you know. So why theology and not philosophy? Because you might think a lot of what I say is philosophy, because theology deals with the kind of, you know, study of religions and stuff, and religion is never just abstract philosophy that you do, like what is the, I don't know, what is the tableness of table. It would never be just that. It would be also about performance and practice, like how should you sit, what diet should you do, what dress should, like religion is completely like, it's like applied philosophy, it has to be, or it wouldn't make any sense. Like you cannot be theoretically religious but not religious, then you're not religious basically, right? So this is why it gives us an opportunity to see crypto, which is very much applied also. It is not just theory in a paper. It is the code, it is the software, it is the reality, all that. So this is why theology gives a very interesting lens. And as Sabo reminds us, it is there. So crypto is full of religious attitudes. So what we need is theology to see behind the tricks. Like if religion is like magic, like it is magic the way people like convincingly we all think the price will grow up and all those things, but to peel the layer behind, theology helps us. So let's see some of the motivating factors behind the early pioneers of crypto. Like, is it coincidental, like this whole religious angle to crypto? First, maybe before I go, am I speaking too fast? I've been known to speak too fast. I am, right? It's good, it's okay, it's making sense? Okay, feel free to interrupt me. I mean, I get too excited, sorry. So, Schrödinger, you know the gentleman, very famous guy. So he escaped Nazi Germany, 1941. He was feeling shitty. He was asking the big questions of life. He's like, it's no more okay to talk about physics and shit. We have to talk about what is life, because I just barely died. So he was like, yeah, I have a theory of life. In a very brief pamphlet kind of book he wrote, What is Life? And he says entropy is basically the way to think about, like, because he was trying to reframe the question of death, because he was like, I would not give in to the violence that is the heart of Nazis and people, right? She's like, maybe it's entropy that's the reason of dying. Why? Because second law of thermodynamics tells us the entropy of system constantly increases. That means, like, in some vague terms, it means order, information, organization increases. In a kind of a plain speak, you could think of it as like, it is easier to break something than to make something, because things naturally disintegrate. Like you need so much more effort to make a plate altogether exactly what it was, then break it. It's just like one kick and that's it, right? So naturally things move towards breaking, but life has so much of organization. Life is not like I'm not disintegrating, right? I will in 30, 40, 50 years when I'm dead. And so death is basically when entropy wins over this other force, life force kind of, you know. And this is a very recurrent theme in like religion and mythology. Like Greeks had this Thanatos versus Eros. Thanatos is the death kind of thing. Eros is the life force. I mean, Christianity, all religions have this dark versus light thing. So what he termed, interpreted as his interpretation of second law of thermodynamics completely had like ideology, all those religious themes, because I mean, it's there in the air, this kind of religious ideas of light and dark, Thanatos, Eros, and all that stuff. And so extropianism came about in 60s, 70s, 80s as an alternative of some people arguing, and it's very much present right now, that maybe if we can create technology to beat entropy, we will be able to extend life, reverse age, and all that. That's called extropianism. But But the question they asked, that if technology allows us, say by replacing body parts by machines or uploading our mind to consciousness to cloud or whatever, right? Still the problem is our property. Like if I own today, I don't know, $1,000,000 and it's in US dollars, I know states come and go. States are not immortal. So if states are not immortal, but I'm immortal, I have a problem. I need a way to preserve my property that is also immortal, that it will not be saved or attached or held or in custody by anything that is temporary. Because I believe I want to be immortal. Why? Remember that Zabo quote? Because we are all gods. It's just unfortunate we cannot be gods. So it's trying to fulfill that thing, and it comes back in a circle. So the whole thing was we need eternal property. And then there was this, the backdrop of this was also they were hanging out with the Mormons. So there's this thing called Mormon transhumanism. In Mormon transhumanism, so in Christianity and many religions, there's this movement of like after death, we will like resurrect our bodies to heaven. But Mormon transhumanism was like, why can't we do the opposite? Why can't we bring heaven to earth? And these people were like, we can, people. Technology will make the earth like heaven, right? And so when they merge together, they have these themes of how can we, even if we use technology to make our bodies immortal, like cyborgs or something, what do we do with property? And they started Max Moore, this online forum where they would publish like ideas about how we can do that. And the earlier things that were presented in that was e-money, Chomp's blind signature, all that. Like that was the forum they were publishing all that. The cryptography mailing archive was also came out of the fork of this forum, Extropian forum. It's not coincidental that this thing of alchemy, which is turning base metal into gold, which is connected to religion, they want to be immortal and stuff. Because if you can do that, you can live forever, you can just turn everything into gold and just be like rich and successful. And they do that in Bitcoin. They turn zeros and ones into digital gold. And that's the narrative is all the time. They're obsessed with gold. I mean, they would tell you it's 1971 and all that BS, but there's also underlying underbelly of crypto, you see, alchemy. And then, if you think of trust, it's theology 101. Literally, the whole question of trust. I mean, religious people, theologians have like argued trust, faith, confidence, belief. I mean, it's just like a hotbed of conversations and stuff. I mean, and ironic, they played such a good ideology part. We hear trust, we don't think religion or anything. We just think immediately economics. It's crazy. And eschatology, which is this kind of study of end of times, apocalypse. And Bitcoin has the apocalypse. It's like USD will fail, just so you know. If you didn't know, it will fail. But we have an exit Bitcoin. You don't exit out of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the exit. It's the promised land. You have famous extropians, Ralph Merkle. We all know Ralph Merkle. Metzger, cryptography mailing list, where Chom and everybody was publishing things. Szabo, Hal Finney, and literally Hal Finney, as per their ideology, froze his body. Alcor, the founder of Alcor, extropians, right? So theology of crypto. Now I will talk about it. Maybe before that, I don't know, does this make sense? Anybody has questions? Because, yeah, it's okay. Okay. As I said, I get too excited. So, clockwork. I know I will talk about clocks. It's all connected, believe me. So, there was this, moment in Europe where they were like, we know things naturally disintegrate. This is shitty. We all die. And then they figured out the first device that went on by itself and you did not need to constantly charge it or move it. It's called the clock. Especially the kind of, not the sundial, but the clock with the escapement mechanism with springs and stuff, which once you do it, it just goes on. You don't have to constantly do it. And that was remarkable because imagine the metaphysics, imagine the feelings of it, that you now have almost like an alien in the room that goes on by itself. I mean, now we're all used to it and nobody has to do anything to keep charging it, right? And it was like the first image they have of what would be some sort of immortality. If only we could have the perpetual moving machine and all those kind of metaphors, And so that was the first automaton, the things that go on by itself. And automation the idea of automation is countering entropy, like any kind of automation. And we automate all the time with technology right now. If we did not have entropy, we would just turn something, it would go on forever. We did not need to keep putting energy and stuff in it, right? Which we need. So clocks kind of gave an hope, kind of a metaphor that maybe we could do something. So and this impacted theology because the idea of the biblical idea of Genesis is that God did all the work in 6 days, 7 days. God was like doing all the testing of the universe. He's like everything kind of works, unit testing, all that. And when God realized everything works, From the seventh day, God stopped doing, and God stopped constantly having to charge the universe. And the universe ran as an automaton. So this is why the metaphor that even Newton used this a lot is God is the cosmic watchmaker and the creation is the watch. Like it goes on by itself. It can have enough spring that it can fight its own entropy constantly. And it goes in many ways, because if you look at a watch is also watching, like looking. That's why God is all-seer. God is seeing us all the time. And anytime God wants to know what time of the day it is, God looks at the creation. That's why God needs to keep looking at us, judging us at all time. But the judgment comes after we die, and the extropians were like, we don't want to be judged by God, and also we don't want to die. It comes together, immortality, people, technology, all that, right? Does this make sense so far? Okay, I'm paranoid and I'm not confident, so how do you operationalize this theology of time? So throughout like the medieval times, villages had like centralized, in the center of the village, a church with the bell that will remind you what time of the day it was. Nobody had a clock in their homes. They completely controlled time. By controlling time, they control trade and everything, because you cannot have anything without that. You can't even, go on a date. I don't know, people dated or whatever. You couldn't do anything. And they were obsessed with making themselves this kind of clocks. Why? Because that will be the image of God. So this is why monks were the first people, the Catholic monks, the Benedictine monks, to be precise, who said we will wear a uniform. Because before that, people worked, like it was weird to think some people will wear something, a dress. Now we have uniforms in many kinds of industries and stuff, but they invented that stuff of like having a routine of like, we will have breakfast at this time. Before, people ate when hungry, slept when tired, but they were like, no, we have a clock. We are like civilized people. We don't do that kind of stuff. We have breakfast, we have lunch. Just don't eat when you're hungry. We don't do that. And this whole civilizing process was done by monks, and because clocks, because we have to be deities, as Zabo would remind you. And divine intervention is God basically realizing, shit, the clock is not working properly. This part is not okay. Just put his hand in and it's okay again. That's divine intervention. So it's God having to tune the clock from time to time. And so God is omnipresent. You can also look at it as God is everywhere, decentralized. And God is all-seeing, as the panoptic computer, as the watch. Like God sees everything. Like Panopticon was a device by Bentham that allows this tangent. Let's just say God sees everything, okay? It's interesting when you look at this, and when you look at this, the balance is that while the church was centralized, the idea of God was decentralized, because God was everywhere. Nobody could say God was in one place. So they kind of found this hack by saying, because you could argue, if God is everywhere, why do you need a church? I don't need to go talk to a priest. I can just make up my own thing. They were like, no. God is everywhere, but time is basically the ultimate reality, and we think time is objective. And you guys don't have the clocks, we do have. And you guys don't have a way to judge your life, we have. So it's all like they were the timekeepers, they were the time bandits or time cops, like the movie, right? So and this is kind of metaphor that they would have, is the real is hidden. You can't see. What you see is illusion. Only the people who have access to God or whatever can see. So this idea of like the real task of philosophy, decrypting the real, this is why you cannot trust your senses. Also in crypto, trust nobody, don't trust what you see, verify everything. They were doing that part. It's called hermeneutics. It's a whole discipline where you interpret the Bible and stuff like that, to figure out like the real task of what is meaning of life and all that. So this idea of like something hidden, which is of the most important, and you need some people to tell you, or some discipline to tell you, right? So if the universe is an automaton, which I said, it's very much becomes like a kind of a program, like a computer program, which runs based on like automation, like algorithm. And this has like modern incarnations too from. One is the Nick Bostrom's artificial simulation, which is, like many people like, what's his name, the Musk, yeah. He believes, the whole world is a simulation and all that. I mean, it's very much a Christian idea. And in crypto, we have the idea of a consensus being a clock. I'll argue the second part. So if you look at this text, in this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate a computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. Chronological order, time, timestamp, time, and the word time is used 24 times. I mean, the whole argument in the paper was just like e-money and all those things, a lot of things they did, but the thing where they all failed was trusted third parties, because you can't prevent double spending. Why trust third parties? Because we are not gods. So I have a solution. I will figure out the time problem, which anyway is a godly problem. So timestamping is like decentralized timestamping server being the key to the Bitcoin, the magic. And the word time is used 24 times in the 8 pages of the very little white paper. And so time also happens to be this idea time is money, time is labor. We use these things. So when we sell our time, as like when we go to work, when we do a contract, time is labor, time is money. And that's also proof of work. We were able to like basically prove that it takes so much time to find these knowns, and that's the heart of like if time was elastic, not objective, as then proof of work just wouldn't make any sense. Then you would just be able to extend time and stuff, right? So, and this goes way back, it's not a new thing, to the birth of distributed systems in 1970 with Lamport's paper, Time, Clocks, and the Ordering of Events in Distributed Systems. I'm not going to details, it's a whole other tangent, but the time clocks and all those things are like very key to the distributed system problem that he was trying to solve. And Lamport himself says, you don't have to read, but the basic idea he says times and the idea that he got was from special relativity. And the special relativity idea that Newton got was he was working as a clerk in the patent office in Bern, and he was looking at patents in 1905 of synchronizing clocks. Why? Because at that time, long distance trains was becoming popular. And the big problem they had were trains were colliding, people were dying. So then they realized we need a way to sync all the clocks, and they came up with time zones and all that during that time, but they also had the technical problem of having to sync times. And then Einstein came up with, he was like, I'm going to step back and even think of time, forget about syncing clocks and stuff. So this is why all the metaphors of relativity initially were like trains moving back and forth and all those things. So it is not like coincidental, the thing of time is like there. So let me count the ways crypto has religions. So anytime anybody admonishes anybody from ever using the same public key twice without context, like you're a terrible person, like you don't know crypto properly, what are you doing? Or evangelizing non-coiners, like guys, dude, crypto, I mean, you don't know the banks, they're evil, Debating which fork keeps to have the ticker, the joke that Bitcoin is the true Bitcoin, is that, they're still debating which is the right Bitcoin or which is the right, or protecting the sacredness of immutability or of ETH or BTC being money. Like anytime anybody even questions, it's like, here's like, oh my God, I'm not even going to debate, like there can be no conversation around it, no. And this whole Bible, exists. There are people who would like, recently, Mr. Popescu, one of the earliest Bitcoiners, he drowned in Costa Rica, and Pompliano immediately tweeted, we must not forget what Nakamoto said. Any lost coins makes everybody else richer. Somebody died. Can you imagine he's on the beach with Popescu, he's like drowning, he's like, Pompliano, please save. He's like, yeah. Oh shit, you're a Bitcoiner. Sorry, I would have helped you, but you have too many Bitcoins. It makes everybody richer. I want to, and it's social benefit. Because Bitcoin will become the new money. I mean, it's for the earth. You are sacrificing yourself. I mean, if you have to believe that we have to go on a genocide killing all Bitcoin people, if you really want Bitcoinization, what the fuck? And that's what happens. It's completely religion. And he immediately deleted. But this is the underbelly of crypto, and the eschatology, like the end of time stock, like death of USD, don't worry. But we have to just kill enough Bitcoiners. This is why, and you see in ETH, people debate, Ethereum doesn't have a cap, we should have a cap. I mean, do you want people to like die and be like, sorry, ETH now has a cap, sorry, I would have helped you, but, it's not from me, Can you imagine a court case where somebody argues I had to kill so many people? Because Nakamoto said that, remember? So let me count the ways crypto is a promised land, right? So scarcity promise. It'll never be more than 21 people, I promise you. Like that's, because I just told you, like we'll go to heaven. Why? Because we will be immortal people and it will help us. And this actually works because Halfini, when he was frozen in Alcor, the way the incentive works is if ALS syndrome gets solved, by the time it gets solved, say 10, 20, 30, 100 years, one Satoshi will be billion. Because, we would have killed enough crypto people. One Satoshi will be a billion. And they will have all the incentives to unfreeze Halfini and get it out of his mind where he kept his, secret keys or whatever, right? So it's like a weird death cult. Like one way you want to be immortal, but you might have to kill some people. I mean, what are you doing? It's religion, So property promise, not your keys, not your coins, completely. Hodl promise, it will make you happy in the long run. Keep hodling people, it will make you happy in the long run. And if you didn't, it's not been long enough, you know. And POW promise, will nonce for rewards. Build promise, if you build it, they will come. Or the autonomy unstoppable promise, which is crypto dApps are shutdown proof. Don't worry about it. And anytime the law comes and reminds you it's not, sorry, the promise, it's a promised land. So Oracle promise, we get objectivity because, I don't know, some chain link stuff like impartiality. That's a whole other theology around like why impartiality doesn't have to give you objectivity. Stablecoin promise, will always you want one. We might have to liquidate some people, but the promise is promise. Come on, I mean, you know, it's sorry. And so, you know, what is religion? Now you know, right? And I can go more and more all day long, but I think I will stop for some questions and doubts and think I was complete. There's actually a lot more. Oh my God, I interpret Tao hard fork and I have many things happening. But anyways, just one little thing. So there's a difference between sin and a crime and an error. So for example, say my kids, I have 3 kids. I'm doxing my kids, sorry. So I have X number of kids, right? And X could be any number. So they do a mistake. They, for example, I don't know, break some new porcelain that's like expensive and shit. And I'm like, oh shit, you shouldn't have done that. I try to explain to them. But if they do a math problem that is wrong, I'm not going to be punishing them. It's just a mathematical error. They don't know how to do math. So there's a difference between error and a crime. And what in the Bitcoin, in the DAO hard fork, the people who didn't want the fork, the classic people, they said, it's just an error, math error, economics incentive error, it's not a crime. So the moment you make everything into an error, not a crime, you cannot have a moral argument about right and wrong, because then everything just becomes a number. You know, somebody just did the wrong math. I mean, you can't blame people. It's like if somebody murdered somebody, they did not mathematically, you know, predict that putting the knife in the throat kills them. You know, it's just a error in the, it's like a robot. It's the error in the visual system. So you have to fix the bug in the brain, and that's it. And then you're scot-free. I mean, that shit is pretty crazy if that happens, right? And then there's the idea of a sin, which is different than crime and error. In sin, even if you pay back for the mistakes you did, you never really undo the mistakes you did. So for example, say today I did some horrible thing where the entire company of 100 people got basically broke and stuff, and I like cheated people and all that stuff, right? Now I might have to go to jail, and I had 20 years I serve, and at least I would not be put back to jail because I served my time. I did time. Again, the time idea, right? Did time. But even if I did that, from a moral angle, I could never go back in time and undo what I did. Like I have to live with the fact that I did that to people, you know? So there is a sense of undoability that sin has that crime and error does not have. Like you can never undo it. You can pay back, but not undo it. And the only thing you can do as a result is get forgiveness from God, because you cannot undo it. So in Catholicism, when you get married in a church, you cannot divorce because you cannot undo it. You can annulate. And this undoability is called immutability. You know, that you cannot undo it. You know, so this immutability regime makes every problem in crypto considered a sin. This is the religion of economism. I should stop, sorry. Okay, so any questions, doubts, disappointments? Yeah. It's a lot more tangents to be gone everywhere, but this shit is deep, like this whole religious thing in crypto, like. So what do you guys think? I don't know, what were your expectations or thoughts? I can continue with my slides. I have like lots of slides, but I don't want to put too much on everybody. Did you guys think of crypto and religion before? Did it make any sense? Nobody's asking questions. Now I'm insecure. Yeah, please.
What's the warning here? What should we be wearing?
Oh yes, I will go to the warning directly. I can do pop theology. I will do pop theology later. You see, even like so too much to be said about that. You know, like, the code sacred that we can't touch this shit. can't touch this, you know. Or it's like hodl, saved by crypto, you know. It's a new religion completely. Genesis block. What the fuck? Why did they go to Genesis? Like, what is it? The manifesto? Is it a spec? The white paper? What it is? Like, state from money, state from religion, all the secularism shit you keep hearing. Key ceremony, bootstrapping ceremony, forking as a rite of passage, meme magic, ritual. I mean, come on, I mean. What if minors took an oath like doctors? You know, what do you think about that? How would MEV work if minors took an oath? I don't know. Why is nobody talking about that?
And what's the... I'm God, by the way. God
Yeah.
is speaking to you right now.
This is the danger, by the way. This is the shit that can happen. Is it'll create a new world religion. Then eclipse all religion. You know why? Because nobody will think it's religion. Dude, it's economics. It's science. Objective. Sorry. Please.
Hajam,
It's
God
more like
speaking
a
to you.
comment, but I
Yes.
think there is a lot more religion in Bitcoin than Ethereum. Like, it's just.
Oh, yeah. I love.
What do you think about that? Like,
Oh my God! You're talking about the investments or what? No.
no, in
So-
the sense that if you're building stuff, like, it's less of a cult, like. And
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum is less of a cult, way less of a cult. Not that it's not a cult, way less, because there's more pluralism in Ethereum. Like, I would not dare to give this talk in Bitcoin Miami, you know, because I have X greater than 0 number of kids, so it's not a good idea. But here I can do that. I will get some smiles. Some might think I'm crazy, but you know, it's still you can talk about this shit, you know. And many of the reasons you can talk about this is it's a very different kind of crowd that Ethereum has than Bitcoin has. Because Bitcoin, the kind of crowd, they were like extropians, you know, I was talking about Zabo and everybody else, for example. For them, it's like they are so traumatized by death. I'm really quite convinced that you cannot debate them because they don't realize how traumatized, and they almost feel like, you want me to die? Is that what you're saying? You know, I'm like, no, I think the immutability. You want me to die? Like, no, I didn't say that, you know, but that's what happens. So you have to, you know, unpack the religion out of it to, like, you know. So I mean, some things you can still talk about in Ethereum. And before it's too late, I'm going to talk more about it. So it never gets to the point. Yes, please.
Who or what is the closest figure to God in crypto space?
Oof.
I mean, since we were talking
No,
about
fine. There's no one God. There's many. And ideas are God. Like the hodl, that's a God. Like, you know, it's like, maybe I'll show you a code. You know. Okay, this is a good one. In the beginning was the code. And the code was hanging out with God. Soon enough, some came to the conclusion that the code was God. And it is God, you can't change it. Immutability, remember? Because, you know, hodl, because, you know, all of this happened thousands of years ago. Knowledge won, then lost, then rediscovered, like an Atlantean shale erupting from the crystal clear waters of some Caribbean island. Now archaeologists deny its evidence, but a clever few have some to read its inscriptions. Maybe we are those clever few, we could pat ourselves on our back.
I have a question more. The thing is that I don't know Vitalik as a person, but I know that eternal life is like a topic for him. He's also in this kind of camp, and how do you see this? Or it's like a coincidence, or because it's easy to talk about the other.
I mean,
what
I
the
just want to
Bitcoiners-
say I did talk about, I'm going to give an indirect answer because, you know, everything is also political, not just religious. I'm going to give, because I'm part of the community, I will be indirect about my answer. Because here, you know, I talk about this particular situation. Sorry, I'm doing this indirect thing. I hope you forgive me. So if you see Vitalik's Twitter page, you see this person's name on the profile. You know, and the fable of the dragon tyrant. So I mean, you know. So any other question? Sorry.
no answer.
Hey, so we just got a question. What is God looking like in blockchain space, right? And I know that we talked previously about different forms of gods, and knowing that we are mostly impacted or influenced by the Western philosophy, and we are coming from the West, so maybe just briefly speak about what else might God represent in the world, like Japanese culture and stuff.
It was interesting because the thing is, I mean, I come from India, and I did more like Buddhist theology than Christian or Jewish a little bit. And there's a very interesting differences, which is like important to say that. So I mean, there, the whole angle is not about belief in God, for example. So, and this might be a tangent, so feel free to stop me if I'm going too crazy. So it's like this whole idea of like you have to believe in a God and then you're religious is a very Protestant idea. So what happened was after Martin Luther, there was this person who was obsessed with belief and created a whole framework. His name was the Reverend Thomas Bayes. And so he came up with this idea that you can have beliefs and prayers, like evidence, and you can keep updating. So, and his whole idea was, can I create a proof of the existence of God? And he created a whole system out of that. And now we still have this question of like, do you believe in God? Why is it a bad question? So for example, if I often think of Captain Spock from Star Trek. I don't know if you guys know. It's an amazing guy. I often think, what would he do? I don't believe he's real, not one bit. But do I not think about him? I have 2 minutes left. All the time. So belief doesn't really capture the reality of religion, because a lot of people do a lot of things, not because they believe it's true or false. We just do shit because we just do shit. And by the way, the person, the Reverend Thomas Bayes, the framework is called Bayesian statistics. So, I mean, Bayesian statistics is basically a ontological proof of God. So anytime somebody is using the statistical model, they are doing a lot of theological work actually, which I don't agree with, for example. Even the idea of religion is so badly understood because of certain kind of ideology and propaganda that we constantly do religion without realizing we are doing religion, and we will be wrecked if we don't wake up and see religion for what it is, you know, how we are doing it to each other, how it is doing to us. We don't do religion so much knowingly as it does us, because we don't even know we are doing it, you know, because we don't know we don't see religion for what it is. We think it's some belief system in some book that some people, it's like people go to church, we think they believe in God. Of course they don't. Nobody believes there's an actual Jesus giving them stuff in the church. Nobody actually believes it. I mean, if you really, most rational people ask them. But we do it because it's not belief, it's Alif. So, Alif is a whole other framework. I can talk after that. Yeah. I guess I'm over. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a quick question. I loved your talk. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
If you
Thank
can
you.
share your slides, that would be
I
amazing.
will definitely. I will share the creed. It's the new religion of no religion.
Uh-huh.
And but I will leave you with the last slide, which is I'm really I'm not exaggerating one bit, not even one Bitcoin, one Satoshi bit, you know. And this, you know, this is really what's what. And I mean, one small example. You know, like throughout centuries, we have had an altar at home that we pray and we say, God, can we get blah, blah, blah. And the altar wouldn't reply back. It's an altar, it's stone or whatever, it's an image. But now we have an altar that replies. In the middle of the house, it's there. It's called Amazon Echo, right? And we constantly talk, we tell all our dreams, or our phone, all our dreams. Like, Siri, I don't know, can you tell me the weather? Or do you tell me, can you love me today? Or whatever, right? And it replies back. And it does what he asks, like, Siri, can you remind me to buy this thing? It will do. So it's the same thing of having to tell all your wishes and dreams. So dreaming, it will fulfill everything, and now it fulfills everything. And that's why it's like now we have like gods which are programmatic that replies and is so much more powerful. This is why all this privacy rhetoric, like people are too stupid to give all their data. They don't realize we have always given our data to God. Always told all our wishes and dreams in prayers and stuff. And we are doing it now. And this is why they are the new gods. All the tech devices and all the people and everything. Like, you know, sorry, yes.
You were talking about entropy earlier.
Yes, yes.
Higher entropy,
Yeah.
evolve, and like fade also.
Yeah.
Do you have an advice how to live with low entropy?
Listen to my talks more, and I don't know. I'm the new teacher. That's it. Thank you.